The frugal farmer is always looking for a way to cut down on feed costs. It's not just the rising cost of feed that's crippling farmers, it's the constant short supply that causes issues to the nation too. Rotational reseeding is the next best thing. It's cheap, it does not require any machinery or elbow grease from you, and in the long run, it's going to offer your hogs boatloads of nutrition and so much to keep them busy with that you won't have bored and destructive hogs hell-bent on breaking down their fences to look for food and entertainment somewhere else. So let's have a look at a concept that's been around for 100 years or more. It might just change your whole outlook on keeping pigs and drastically reduce your costs. Feeding your pigs directly from the field isn't a new concept at all. We've forgotten about this practice in recent years simply because large-scale operations are so enormous and hold so many pigs at once that there isn't all that much land to spare to grow anything on. But this isn't the case for small-scale farms, homesteads, or farms that practice rotational grazing. It's not just your cattle that can graze. Pigs are perfectly capable of grazing too. Besides saving you a great deal of money down the road, it's a fantastic way to give your pregnant sows and growing juveniles that just need a little more feed without adding more volume to their feeding troughs. The concept is quite simple. If you have a patch of land to spare for your pigs to forage, move their housing to graze the land. When everything that's been growing there is stripped clean, move them on to the next space and let the former recover by planting grazing crops in that newly trampled soil. That way, when they make the rounds again, there's a fresh new cover of growth for them to eat. And so you rinse and repeat the process, keeping your pigs fed on a wide variety of forage that can meet virtually all of their nutritional needs. There isn't a lot of math involved, and the process is so incredibly simple that it barely requires any labor from you at all. If you've got the space, there's no reason that you shouldn't be making full use of it. Your foraging pigs, like the Idaho pasture pigs and the coon-coons, will be able to rely solely on the cover you plant, with no additional feed from you at all. The rest will probably need to be supplemented with high-calorie options like corn from time to time, but we'll get into your planting options in just a second. If you throw down enough seeds, you can comfortably sustain a group of 30 pigs for every acre of land you keep them on. The only real mental math to keep in mind is when you need to move them. And we're not talking about keeping a calendar here. You'll need to keep an eye on their progress. Every breed has their own pace and speed with which they can work a field. That said, this doesn't just apply to pigs. It applies to any grazing animal: cows, sheep, horses, goats, and even chickens to some degree. How it works and what to look for are very simple. Your pigs will come into an area, rip up anything living, and once the greenery is gone, they'll content themselves with digging into the ground to get to the only other edible options, roots. After they've cleared those and realize that there's nothing left to eat, they just end up trampling the soil and compacting it. You want to avoid full compaction of the soil, otherwise there will be nothing in the ground to hold the soil intact when rain or winter runoff comes by. By the end of a single season of that compacted earth standing in the elements, you can have a very long-term fight to reverse the erosion problem that you now have on your hands. Besides, that empty plot is virtually wasted if nothing is living on it anyway, so there shouldn't be any encouragement needed for you to make optimal use of the soil at your disposal. The pigs have left behind enough fertilizer and loose ground. Once the ground is clear of growth and they've started digging for roots, it's time to throw down a mixture of seeds right on top of the soil. Don't bother tilling them in. Your hogs are going to do that for you. You see, as they're rooting for the last of the roots, they'll also smell the seeds, even if most of them are too small to eat. They'll be sniffing and scratching for them anyway, working them into the ground for you. After a day or two, just move them onto their new acre and leave those seeds to sprout and grow while they work at clearing their new plot. Most of the seed options on our list won't need any watering from you, except in the beginning stages when they're sprouting. But depending on the weather and climate, you might not even have to water them at all. The ground will be soft enough for the seeds to sprout through, and the pigs will have left behind plenty of moisture in their droppings and urine to supply the new growth with enough to get them going. So how much should you be planting, and what variation do you need to add? Well, you can throw down enough seeds to equate to 20,000 pounds of food at the end of their growth for every acre of land. You can haul at least 3 5-gallon buckets of seed in there, and you can raise that comfortably to 5 buckets if you want to. Even if the cereals and rye that you put down don't reach full maturity before you set your herd on them again, it's not going to matter. The plant itself has just as much nutrition in the stems, leaves, and roots as the seed heads do, so you don't need to set out a dozen acres to rotate them on. 3 acres is enough to make a huge difference if you're adding enough variety to the mix. When looking at your options to lay down, avoid corn. It takes a long time to mature, and it doesn't do well in oversown conditions. There are some smaller South American varieties out there that will do just fine, but they're rarely available at your local store. The same can be said for grain and rice varieties that are native to Africa and the Americas. So if those are available to you, don't pass up the opportunity to make use of them. Almost all of them are incredible options both for human and animal feed. We have some videos covering the forgotten grains of the world, so be sure to have a look at those after you finish this video. And while you're at it, we also have videos that go into the nutritional makeup of each grazing crop that pigs will need to stay healthy and thriving. But for now, we'll focus on the options that are cheap, readily available to everyone, and the ones that grow fast and hold the most nutrients, no matter where you are in the world. For the warmer months, take your common crops like rye, barley, oats, foraging peas, hay, and your cereals. They'll grow out enough for hogs to mow down again in less than 3 months. Also, take a look at the edible weeds that are native to your area. Nettle, thistle, cleavers, chickweed, brambles. The list is virtually endless. A quick Google search will give you more than enough options to choose from. Anything that grows naturally where you live won't need any care from you. They'll give you more nutritional value than you can imagine, and they'll outgrow everything else in half the time of the field. The colder months aren't any more complicated than the summer is. Even warm crops like rye and hay are so fast-growing that you might even get a little value from them as the weather turns cool. There are even some cold-hardy varieties of barley out there, and peas don't mind a little cold either. The native weeds will hang around for longer too. But this is the ideal time to add clover to the mix. It grows low to the ground and intercrops just fine with everything else you plant with it. Your sows that are about to farrow will be especially thankful for clover, no matter what variety you have for them. It's one of the most nutritious crops to feed pregnant ruminants, right next to alfalfa, bringing with it the most lysine out of all of the foraging crops at your disposal. Unless it's in the dead of winter, most of these crops will grow. And if you have some more time between rotations to spare, your options are even more varied. Radishes, sweet potatoes, turnips, beets, and carrots. Besides being beneficial to the swine, they also encourage them to dig more, turning up the soil for the next round of seeds. And if you have large amounts of seeds in storage and you need to clean out some space for new stock, this is a great time to throw out the ones that are about to expire. Yes, pigs need grains and hay for lysine, carbohydrates, and protein, but every vegetable in your garden has at least some of those in it too. And there is virtually nothing that humans can eat that pigs can't eat either. It's all about adding as much mass and variety to the small space as you can. It doesn't matter if you don't set eyes on that plot for a few months. Something will grow, with or without your help. And those oinkers will devour every scrap of greenery on the land once you set them loose on it, leaving fertility and amazing soil behind. So get started on it now. Unless it's the very heart of winter, there's always something that can grow with minimal effort on your part and maximum appreciation from those ruminant jaws that'll be munching on it for the foreseeable future. You might just be surprised at how long your bags of store-bought feed last once you implement rotational grazing for your baconers. So tell us, besides the obvious fast-growing rye and cereal, what native weeds will you be adding to your seed mix? And how many pigs do you plan on rotating? Or, if you've already been doing it, what is the experience like for you? Let us know in the comments below. And you know the drill. Like and subscribe. Our team really appreciates every click and every viewer. See you in the next one. Bye.